We begin this half hour with breaking news in Portsmouth. Former police officer Stephen Rankin has been found guilty of voluntary manslaughter.
Yeah, the jury came back with a verdict about an hour ago now, and we were the first to report it on air.
We, the jury, find the defendant not guilty of first-degree murder or second-degree murder, but guilty of voluntary manslaughter.
From the very beginning, Deanna LeBlanc has been inside that courtroom, and today she was in the courtroom as well for that verdict.
And she is outside the courtroom right now with our Andy Fox. Let's go to them for the latest.
Yeah, here's the bottom line. I just got off the phone with defense attorney Sonny Stallings, and I asked him about this. And with a voluntary manslaughter, what he said was that this made sense rather than first-degree murder. We all were surprised that he was charged in the beginning with first-degree murder, which is premeditation and malice. Sonny Stallings says Rankin, this is the way he summed it up, was reckless. He never saw the first-degree murder, never planned, Rankin, to go out in that situation and to kill, but he pulled the gun. It was gross negligence. He did an unlawful act to kill, but did not mean to do it. And that seemed to fit in with the manslaughter, that seemed to make more sense with what we were hearing in the court of law.
Right, based on the testimony, even the testimony from Rankin himself and all of those eyewitnesses we're hearing. And again, everyone at home needs to keep in mind this all transpired in less than 60 seconds. Rankin says that he used his taser, that it didn't work. In his words, he says that Chapman then flung around. Chapman was over the hood of the police car, that Chapman turned around and hit the taser out of Rankin's hand, that the two separated. There is discrepancy on how far apart they were, 10 feet, 6 feet. Did he charge? Didn't he charge? But that is when Rankin used his service weapon.
And the witnesses that were called, the construction workers, made it seem, and the jurors did not buy this unanimously, that he lunged at Rankin, and Rankin had no choice. And then he had the taser slapped out of his hand, and he was attacking him, and that's why he had to shoot. The jurors did not buy that part of the story.
No, and I think that the Commonwealth did a good job at poking holes. There were 4 different construction workers who acted as witnesses for the defense for Stephen Rankin, but they were, in their own words, somewhere between 100 to 150 yards away building that wall while they were up in cranes. They say they had trees, they had obstructed views. The Commonwealth did a good job poking holes in their testimony.
Of course, then there was the security guard from Walmart, Mr.
Provo, yeah, Gregory Provo, the loss prevention officer.
Mr. Provo, and he said that it was more of a puffing of the chest, that it wasn't a lunging.
That there was no forward movement, and that, I think, is what came down to in the jury's mind, was that they did not believe that William Chapman charged at Stephen Rankin.
And that's what the jury ended up spending 13 hours coming to the decision that that's indeed what it was. And of course, Deanna's been doing an excellent job covering this story for us at Wavy TV 10. When the announcement was made, verdict was read, what did you think?
You know what, I want to go right now to our live picture. I understand that Stephen Rankin is now taking the stand during his sentencing phase.
Where did you grow up? And mom, dad, brothers, sisters?
I live with my mother. I was only a child.
Do you have any brothers and sisters?
No, I was only a child.
What brought you to Portsmouth?
When I completed my time in the military, I served in the Navy.
Tell us about that. When did you enlist?
I enlisted in 2002, kind of as a result of September 11th. It is a lot of my family has served in the military, and I felt I needed to do something for my country.
So you enlisted and did what? I think you've talked before about getting involved in the military police.
I was in the Navy as a Master at Arms, which is the Navy term for military police.
How long did you serve?
I was in for 5 years.
And what type of discharge did you receive?
An honorable discharge.
And during the course of that service, were you ever overseas?
I was deployed twice overseas.
And where were you deployed to?
The first time we operated out of Kuwait, doing various things around the area of Kuwait. The second time we operated out of Spain, again going to several different countries out of Spain.
So when you were honorably discharged from the service, what brought you into the police department?
I wanted to get out of the military, but I wanted to continue to serve the people around me.
Did you know anybody in Portsmouth?
No, I didn't know anyone.
What brought you to this city?
When I was shopping around various agencies to want to work for at the time, I had actually read Portsmouth had the worst equipment but the best morale, and I wanted to work with a group of really good people. And I'll say that at my time in the police department, I worked with some of the finest human beings that I've ever met in my life.
You just heard from Officer Sylvia and Officer Ledbetter,
I did.
friends of yours,
There.
men that you worked with.
Yes, sir.
Today, are you married?
I am.
Is your wife in the courtroom today?
She is.
And how long have the two of you been married?
We've been married a little over a year.
After this incident, you're no longer with the police department.
That's correct.
Do you have any children? Do you have a child?
I do.
And how old is your child?
She's 13 years old.
And that's from a previous marriage?
That's correct.
And what type of relationship do you have with her?
My daughter and I, being a teenager, she likes to communicate through text message, and we text pretty much every day. We have a very good relationship. We love spending time together. She's an awesome kid. She never gets in trouble. She's just happy all the time.
Are you obligated to pay support?
I am.
And are you current on that support?
Yes.
At the moment, are you working?
No, I'm using my GI Bill going to college.
And what do you want to do with the balance of your life?
I'm looking to go into mechanical engineering. Actually, my grandfather was a mechanical engineer at TRW and worked on the space program.
And you understand that you've been convicted of voluntary manslaughter.
I do.
Is there anything that you want to say to the Chapman family?
Yes, and actually I've wanted to say this for some time. Unfortunately, the opportunity didn't present itself. I think this is a terrible tragedy. I wish it never happened. I wish none of this had ever occurred. I can't begin to fathom how much pain that family's going through after losing a loved one. I wish I could have done more than I did to try and keep them alive. I did everything that I could, and I wish that none of this had ever happened.
All right, please answer your questions, Court of Counsel.
Mr. Rankin, you realize you caused this to happen. You're the one that shot him, right? Didn't you?
I think everything's been put on the table here, sir.
Didn't you shoot him?
I was the one that shot him, sir, yes.
Okay. And you say you've been married a little over a year. Is that correct? So after you killed Mr. Chapman, you got married?
A couple months after the incident, yes, sir.
And you've also indicated you have a child.
Yes, sir.
You realize because of you, William Chapman will never have a child?
I really wish this had never happened, sir. I wish he was able to be here to speak to us today.
Do you realize because of you, the Chapman family will never have his presence at another Christmas?
I have felt terrible for all the tragedy in the Chapman family.
And because of you, they'll never have his presence at another Thanksgiving?
I'm objecting to this question. I think that's argument. Certainly be argued to the jury. There you go.
No, nothing further. That's enough.
Nothing further, Your Honor. Thank you.
You may step down,
All right, you've just been watching former Portsmouth police officer Stephen Rankin testifying in the sentencing phase of his trial.
Stay with us. We'll have more from court in just a few minutes.